Hello everybody, welcome. It's your host, the Truth Buster, and it is September 10th, 2015. Well, we've seen a lot of events happen so quickly, and there's been an uptick in so much activity on all different levels, from the collapse that is still going on. Stock markets are still crashing, especially with the Dow. They fall daily. China dumping U.S. treasuries. Warships from both Russia and China that were just here along our coastlines not even a week ago. Now we have the Syrian refugee incident. Now there's been a lot of issues and chaos all over the Western world with that alone right there. But before I get into the topic of that, I want to refresh everybody's memory about something that ISIS said back in 2015, in February of this year. ISIS said that we would flood the Western world with refugees, and in those refugees would be ISIS militants, and those were their exact words. So now I guess we're seeing that their threat has been fulfilled as a promise. It wasn't taken very seriously at the time. What I have in front of me here is an article from blacklistednews.com, and it's titled, U.S. Empire Planned to Overthrow Syrian Government Years Before Uprising. And in the article, WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange did an interview on RT. And he's opening up about his new book called The WikiLeaks Files, speaking about the U.S. Empire and telling RT's Going Underground program that Washington had plans to overthrow Syria's government long before the 2011 uprising began. Speaking to Going Underground host Alshin Radanasi, Assange referred to the chapter on Syria, which goes back to 2006. In that chapter is a cable from U.S. Ambassador William Roebuck, who was stationed in Damascus, which apparently discusses the plan for the overthrow of the Assad government in Syria. The plan was to use a number of different factors to create paranoia within the Syrian government, to push it to overreact, to make it fear there's a coup. So in theory, it says, we have a problem with Islamic extremists crossing over the border with Iraq, and we're taking actions against them to take this information and make the Syrian government look weak. The fact that is dealing with Islamic extremists at all. He added that the most serious part of the plan was to foster tensions between Shiites and Sunnis, in particular, to take rumors that are known to be false or exaggerations and promote them. That Iran is trying to convert poor Sunnis and to work with Saudi and Egypt to foster that perception in order to make it harder for Iran to have influence, and also harder for the government to have influence in the population. Assange stressed this particular cable was quite concerning, adding that while you often have to read between the lines and cables, it's all hanging out there in that one. To understand that what is happening in and around Syria, one must look at regional alliances, Assange said. Part of the problem in Syria is that you have a number of U.S. allies surrounding it, principally Saudi and Qatar, that are funneling in weapons, Turkey as well. It's a very actor, IS, a very serious actor. They each have their own hegemonic ambitions in the region. Israel also, no doubt. If Syria is sufficiently destabilized, it might be in a position where it can keep the Golan Heights forever, or even advance that territory. So you've got a number of players around Syria that are looking to bite off pieces. U.S. Empire. Assange said that when the U.S. government wants something, it brings it together. The various arms of American power, including military, intelligence, financial, and commercial, as well as its informational and diplomatic power, in order to push on a country. But Washington's habits don't pay off so easily in South America. According to Assange, he said, the U.S. empire's influence is harder to achieve there because those nations are surrounded by relatively supportive states. One cable in Assange's book details an instance when the U.S. went to Brazil, telling the country that it wanted to reign in Venezuela. Brazil responded with a resounding no. But while Assange maintains that the U.S. is indeed an empire, he says it's not the one in the classical sense. Instead, its imperialism lies in over 1,400 U.S. military bases in more than 120 countries, as well as in its trade deals. It uses these mechanisms of its embassies, of its military bases, of its presence in organizations like the UN and IMF, in order to secure adventurous deals and structures for the largest American companies. Assange spoke to RT from the Ecuadorian embassy, where he's been holed up for 3 years and has been granted asylum in the Latin American country. But should he leave the embassy and step on British soil, he faces extradition to Sweden, where he faces accusations of sexual assault. From Sweden, the WikiLeaks founder fears he could be extradited to the U.S. to face trial over WikiLeaks' publication of classified U.S. military and diplomatic documents 5 years ago, which amounted to one of the largest information leaks in the U.S. history. If found guilty by a U.S. court under the Espionage Act, Assange could face life imprisonment or even the death penalty. The British government has spent £12 million, and the U.S. equivalent of that is $18.4 million on a round-the-clock police operation outside the Ecuadorian embassy, with officers standing guard to arrest Assange if he leaves the premises. So, we all know the name Julian Assange. He's one of the biggest whistleblowers the world has ever heard of and known. And yes, at times it seems like he can't be trusted because he hasn't been forthcoming with all the information he has, especially with the big controversial and detrimental impact of the TPP. But this right here paints a big picture in that puzzle piece of why what is going on in Syria is occurring and has been for a long time. Well, that's all I have for now. Just prepare. You know what I mean? Get ready. Because all these events that are occurring, now they're coming down like a ton of bricks upon everybody's head. So take this time to prepare yourself, your family, and if you have close friends that you see as family and have care love and respect for it and have their back and know that they'll have yours. Tell them the same. Prepare and get ready. Be blessed and be safe.